laying around.
Ah, got it.
Um, Hi. So, wow. First meeting of the Finnegan's Wake group that we are calling Finnegan's Woke. Um, just to kind of separate us from the many, many other Finnegan's Wakes out in the world. And we're largely a Philly chapter. Most of it is happening around that time zone. Um, that just seemed the appropriate name. We're going to try to tackle this book together. It may take a decade. It takes a lot of people a decade. There's nothing to worry about. Should it take a decade? It's just a decade, right? We can spend that much time talking about a book. Um, and this is our first meeting. We will record these. People will be able to view them whenever they want, add to them. I believe everybody that I'm seeing on here now has found their way to the Google Classroom site. If you have not, please do. And it's quite useful. People are already starting to drop stuff there. But I'm quick to add this. This is not a class in Finnegan's Wake. I am not qualified to teach such a thing. I'm not really sure that I'm not sure you could teach it as you teach most books, but it's a thing we're going to do together. And to that end, some of you are stepping forward and offering to take on teacher-like roles, which will help with the posting of material. Any of you can post anything you like onto the, within the protocols of decorum and all that. On the announcements page, and one of us will figure out a category it's going to go into. I don't want to set those categories up too quickly or put too much control over them. I'd rather see them grow organically if they can. But there will be people doing that, and we will also. And Sheila, I see your hand up. I'll be with you in just a sec. We will also be using different moderators each time we do this for a while. So people, you don't have to be listed as a teacher to take on that role. If you decide, hey, sure, I'll moderate the next one, you could start to figure out what things you want us as a group to tackle and to talk about. Tonight will be a lot of introductions, and as I said on the Google Classroom site, if we make it through 7 paragraphs of the beginning of Finnegan's Wake tonight, I will be shocked, right? But it's a good one. It's a good place to sort of like go for. All right, we're going to introduce ourselves in a bit, but there's already some hands up. So Sheila, and some of us know each other from other classes too. So Sheila, let's go with your question first.
So my question is it possible to set up a way for class, or let's call it group members, to email each other within the Google Classroom? So let's say I was partnering with Catherine to moderate a session and we wanted to go back and forth with each other without including everybody. Is there a way to do that?
It is probably likely that it's under the teacher commands that I've never looked into. I'm perfectly happy to give emails to 2 or more shared parties that tell me they want that email out. But I don't know if you can do it student to student within Google Classroom, and that's probably for the best.
To
Uh, we're
start
going to be at this a
emailing.
long, so but we'll work that out. And yeah, I mean, obviously, as you know from past courses, I'm all about esprit de corps. So anytime people want to work together um, and kind of examine an area together and even maybe co-moderate a section or have combined writings about what they took out of that. I tried in a post from the other day, open the door for that a bit. by just talking about my feelings about what the wake is. Um, but I also meant that as an example that the rest of you can please feel free to follow if you want to write a kind of a thought piece about your experiences within the wake. We'd love to have that be part of the site. Now you can email, all of you have my email and can direct email me through Google Classroom, though I prefer you do it through my Gmail. Um, and I'll be happy to look those over, and I might make some comments or suggestions on editing, but and then post them along. So that answer that question pretty well. Okay. Kirk, hi.
Yeah, just a preliminary comment on that. If you go into the classroom, there is a header called people. And for each person in the people category, there's three dots, sometimes called a menu. There's three dots all the way to the right. And one of the choices when you click on the three dots, one of the choices in that is to email that person. So that is a way
As a
through the
teacher,
classroom.
all have that option. I have that option, and
Right.
you probably do because you're on as a teacher. But if somebody else is there right now that's not got the teacher role and can tell me whether they can do that, then that problem's nicked. We won't have to worry about it. But I don't know that Google Classroom allows it for students, maybe only teachers.
Good point. I don't know either. I'm just saying I can see it from my end, but as you said, okay, and so we have Christine saying no, students don't have that option in the three
Yeah.
dots.
No, I looked it up. They don't, but apparently there's something you can do. You can enable, but you have to enable something else like Google Meet.
All right. Well, Kirk's also been really good at kind of handling the tech on that, and now he's got teacher um, uh, teacher admin. I forget what they call the other word, but the preferences you're able to do. So maybe he can work that out for people. I don't want to. Here's the thing about Google Classroom. I use it a lot, and Google's never asked for money, right? Um, eh, eh, I don't want to break anything that might keep that. It's been weird because I use it also for my Rosenbach teaching, which potentially, because the Rosenbach charges for their courses, Google might want the Rosenbach to pay, and I don't want to screw that up for them. So, because I like using Google Classroom. All right. So unless there's any other immediate questions, I think we want to just do a quick round of introductions from people. I'm going to call you off just in terms of order on my screen because it'll be easier. You do not need to turn your camera on if you do not wish to. If you're doing something else, I get that. So that's fine too, but I'll probably be calling you out by name. So some of you, not all of you, have had courses with me before. My training is in fine arts, and I'm a cartoonist, and I started to adapt Joyce's Ulysses into a digital humanities graphic novel project called Ulysses Scene, which in order to actually make sense of that book, I had to become a Joyce scholar. So, with my lowly little, art degree, I actually had to come. So now I teach Joyce, so, all over the place, which is nice. I have read Finnegan's Wake fairly consistently for about 15 years. I used to begin a day of drawing Ulysses Scene by opening Finnegan's Wake at random and reading a page or a page and a half without really knowing what was perhaps going on or even knowing the arc and the form of it, but trying to get into the Joycean language of it and how it operates. So I did get to take a couple of recent Rosenbach classes. from some Joycean friends of mine on the wake. I do know some of the structural elements of it now through doing that. Um, but I am, for those who haven't had a class with me before, I am a great lover of the unknown, right? So I will try to keep embracing that as we go through the book together. And I'm, like I said, Quinn just came in. Great, Quinn. Hi.
Hey, sorry, I'm late.
So I'm gonna we're going to start doing introductions. We're already recording, Quinn. And I'm just going to start with people who are on the top of my screen just because it's easier in this mode. And Kirk, because you talked last, you're already up at the top. So let's go with you.
I live in Huntington Beach, California. Thank you for allowing a foreigner in. I'm a retired software engineer.
I think people move there, you know.
And if any of you are in Southern California, please let me know so that I can have some drinks with you. Retired software engineer, specializing for the last 20 years of my career in internet consulting with IBM. My avocations are primarily cinema. I've been to a lot of film festivals and seen a lot of movies. Literature, not so much, but I do love Shakespeare, and I've gotten into Ulysses, and the session with Rob that he led this year was my first time with Rob, and it was an amazing experience. I see a lot of familiar faces that
you
helps
also
make
did
that
Lord of
great.
the Rings with me last summer, Kirk, which was wonderful. And so I will put that out there that you may find some Lord of the Rings references will crop into our conversation here as well.
and that's great because both Joyce and Tolkien are great users of the language, but in very different ways. So in any case, what else to say about me? Married, no kids, and I really enjoy a good puzzle, and certainly Finnegan's Wake is even more of a puzzle than Ulysses.
Agreed.
And I'll be sharing my email and so forth. Anyone that has technical questions, feel free to email me. I'll be posting that to the classroom.
If people feel like they want to do that, you can put it on Google Classroom. You can even put it into the chat if you want. Again, this is your own option. I don't want to have any control over that. Anne.
Hi, everyone. I'm hailing from Chicago, and I actually met Rob recently in New York. James Joyce Society had staged, they had elevator repair service do Helltown, and which is chapter 15. No, I'm trying to remember it from Ulysses. I can't remember. But did a stage reading of the play that was adapted from it. And so I had taken a couple classes in Ulysses over the last year and a half. One was with the James Joyce Society in Dublin, virtual. I was not there. I would have liked to have been there. And also through James Joyce Society in New York City, not of New York. You're not supposed to say, I learned that at that event. So Rob and I started talking, and everyone who I know is like, Finnegan's Wake. Oh no, don't. Like, but you know what? I'm like, when Rob talked about it, I go, you know what? I'm game. I'm gonna do it because what's interesting to me when I read Ulysses is I read it a few times, because I'd seen the elevator repair service play of Ulysses before I read it, and I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. But then I got very intrigued, decided to take a couple classes to have some guided help going through it. And one of the things about wordplay, which I noticed, is when I'd fall asleep at night, if I just read some, I'd have these amazing dreams with all this wordplay, and my mind was going down different paths of what it all meant and what the plot was. And I thought, that's what this is what Joyce is trying to tell me. It's like, so to me, it's like if I approach the same with this Finnegan's Wake with the same curiosity and openness, I'll have fun with it. And if I don't try to, what is the meaning of this? What is the literal, if I just let that go, I'll have a good time. So, I'm also a film buff. I majored in French and film in the 80s in University of Michigan, and but I'm a retired human resource person and been retired just less than a year now, and I'm absolutely loving being retired. So I have time to read literature and go to a lot of film festivals.
Excellent.
So yeah, so that's me.
All right. Great. I think your idea of, I just want to make comments a little bit here and there. Your idea about openness to the puzzles of the text is really important, and not trying a linear solution is really important. Um, and there should be a life lesson from that, right? That's the thing that a good work of art can show you is, oh, maybe my interaction with that other person will be different because of that too. So, um, and I love that about what you said. So thank you very much. Catherine, you're next on my screen.
Hi, everybody, listening to the rain outside. So I live in the Princeton area, and if somebody said to me 2 years ago that I would be taking a Finnegan's Wake class, I would have said, "You are crazy. That will never happen." But I also, and I really related to what you said because I just retired about 2 years ago. I was an English literature major in college. I've always been a huge reader of literary fiction. I've always wanted to read Ulysses. And so I found out through the Rosenbach mailings about Rob's course and just finished taking the course. We all finished it some of the people in this class also finished the course 2 weeks ago. And I loved the book, loved the discussions. And then I met a number of folks who are now here today. And just we had such a great time. And I thought, how could I not want to take this course and really have these discussions and understand this book and this writer with his mind. And people know that have gotten to know me. I am a psychiatrist by training. Like that was medical school is what derailed my literature. And I always, always, always just love reading great literature. So I'm really approaching this because I did start trying to read the 7 paragraphs, and I realized I got to just do a lot of stepping back, sitting back, kind of letting this wash over me and just read some of the stuff behind it a little bit. I do like to have the platforms. I like the way that Joyce puts certain chapters into various styles. And so I'm interested to see, but I'm actually very, very excited about what we're going to do here. And I don't know what it is exactly, but I'm excited about it.
We're gonna talk more than we're gonna learn from one another. It's not gonna be a
Yeah,
classroom. But tell me, Catherine, did you read the 7 paragraphs aloud?
I did.
Good.
Yes, I did. My cats were looking at me this morning because I just got these and they're looking at me like, what are you doing, lady?
You get some weird looks, but it's really the only way to do that. And particularly here, because when you read something aloud, you're forced to make decisions,
hmm
right?
hmm
About how those words work. I was trying to explain to somebody the other day the expression Peloponnesian boots, right?
Yes.
That sounds like Peloponnesian, but it's pull upon easily and boots. And it's like that
Yeah.
sort of wordplay as you're constructing
Yeah.
is something that just changes our alertness to what we're reading. Would be the way to think about it. Tony.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Tony, and some of you know me, some don't. I live in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia, so I'm able to go to the Rosenbach. I was just there last Tuesday for Bloomsday and enjoyed reading.
And
I
singing.
What's that? And singing. Yes, I did a little aria. Um, I was a literature major in college, and I got a master's in English as well from Temple. But I practiced law for 40 some years and retired about 3 years ago. And since then, I've really been deep diving on James Joyce. I mean, I've taken the Ulysses course twice, and I took the course on Stephen Hero and Portrait, and yeah, I'm excited about Finnegan's Wake. Yes, I've thrown in a couple of semesters, if you will, of Tolkien. So, but I am enjoying deep reading with this group and the discussions um, I guess what I would say. Oh, I also went to Dublin a couple of weeks ago just because I'm just deep diving on Joyce, and why not if I haven't been there? So I went there and walked those footsteps too. So yeah, I'm just fascinated, and I guess my orientation is usually I'm usually trying to follow plots and and find out where the autobiographical tidbits are. I'm going to try to let go of my need for structure, and I do like to read out loud, so that's not an issue. But yeah, I still kind of I'm fascinated by his biography, his fascinating life, and the life of the criticism of him after he's passed away has been an interesting arc. So anyway, we'll talk more about that. Nice to meet you all and see those friends of mine I've seen again. Irony.
Great. Yeah, a very interesting life, very interesting. I've been probably good and bad. I think one of the most interesting artists of the 20th century is James Joyce, and something that, like, the deeper you explore, the more you find out about that, good and bad. But always interesting, right? Also, since you mentioned it, Jay, will you do me a favor?
In here?
Pull up the Rosenbach site and put a link into the Finnegan's Wake course they're doing. My friend Mike Barsanti will be doing that if anybody's interested in taking another. Now, Mike's not going to take 10 years to parse out everything with all of you. But he will give you, and there's, like, to speak to what Tony just said, there is structure here to be found because Joyce is all about structure and constraint. He has to have structure, he can't operate. And so that course could be another thing people might want to do while this is going on. We're going to meet monthly. I think they meet monthly, but they're probably going to do, I imagine, 9 or 10 meetings. I haven't really looked at it. In person, 9 months. In person. Okay, put a link in anyhow. You already did? No? Okay. So that might be a possibility. Sheila, you're next on my hit parade.
Oh, I thought I was muted, but I'm not. Sheila Kennecke. I live in Marion Station, which is very close to Philadelphia, and I also got to enjoy Bloomsday downtown and meeting a lot of the class members from Rob's last Ulysses class. I earned a PhD in English literature with an emphasis on women writers and modernism in 1994. And then my life took a very swift turn when I had twins who have severe autism. So now I know everything about Medicaid benefits. If you'd like to talk to me about that, I am a true expert.
You can talk my wife at Bloomsday because that's her field. So
cool. So yeah, it's interesting to me based on my sons who are now, they're twins, they're now 29, and they have this acute appreciation for sound. They may not understand the meanings of words, but they always are very tuned into the sound of words and the sound of sounds. They're very interested in that. They also have memorized hundreds of books and songs, so they're very good with words as long as they stay in their place. So it was fun for me to take the course with Rob this spring. It was my first lit course since I stopped studying in the in the mid 90s. So it's fun to be back in the swing, or the swim maybe is a better word. And
I do love the water metaphors. Yeah.
And so this is I'm someone who's generally pretty comfortable with ambiguity and not understanding, like just sort of hearing and feeling. But I will say the first 7 paragraphs I got a little uncomfortable. I did read it aloud, and that certainly, I think, amps up the enjoyment, although I would be a little frustrated, like, am I saying this the right way? Is this how it's supposed to sound? But I'm excited. I've been so impressed by the dedication of the members of my former class to doing the reading and then doing lots of outside reading. It's really inspiring to me that so many people really put themselves into this. It's not work, I guess. It's kind of like work and play. So I'm looking forward to doing my best with the rest of you.
Great. That's great, Sheila. Thank you so much. Terry's up next. Now, Terry and I met for the first time at Bloomsday, and he was in Paul's class, which was live at Rosenbeck. I'm sorry, Terry, you went like this. Do you want a minute?
Can you go again? I had a problem with my headphones. I couldn't hear you, Chester.
Well, I was just saying that you and I met on Bloomsday.
Yes.
You did come while you weren't in my class, like some of these other people were. You were in Paul Santamore's class.
Yes.
And so and you're thinking about taking the upcoming Finnegan's Wake.
I'm not thinking about it. I signed up on Bloomsday. I just said, hell, why not? 10% off if you sign up that day. You and Paul talked me into it. So thank you.
And we were talking, and I think, I put that little thought piece together about talking about Finnegan's Wake on Bloomsday. It might have been to you, it might have been to somebody else that I said that thing that's like, it's kind of like going to a foreign art museum.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I want to talk to you about like your experiences with Joyce that like you had with Paul, which are, Paul and I have been friends for nearly 2 decades. And how you're feeling about Joyce and why you just want to keep going deeper.
Well, the more refined answer is my first experience with Joyce was as an undergrad taking an English lit class. We read Portrait of the Artist, the Young Man. But the actual answer is when I was about 11 years old in the movie Back to School. Sally Kellerman read the last page or so of Molly Bloom's monologue. And that was my first exposure to Joyce. And Rodney Dangerfield screaming, yes, yes, in the middle of class. So, but, that kind of started, reading Portrait of the Artist led me to Dubliners, led me to Ulysses, which until I took the class with Paul this past year, I wouldn't say that I understood Ulysses on my first go around, but doing that class with Paul was it just, and like having be able to seek out some supplemental material, the annotations, some of the reader's guides that are out there, and also listening to certain podcasts that discuss the book. It was a great experience. And I really do feel I understand Ulysses a lot better than the first time I read it. And I feel like I can discuss it more. So that's why I'm taking the class at the Rosenbach for Finnegan's Wake. And, Rob told me about this group. I said, I'm all in. Let me, try to understand this book, which I have. I'm not going to say read. My eyes passed over the text one time in the past where I read it straight through. I didn't, read just a page at a time. I would read a chapter and then, read the next chapter, kind of like with the feel of it, to get the feel of it. And again, logically didn't make sense to me, but emotionally it kind of made sense. So that's how I'm approaching this. I want to, just feel the words and have some sort of, get some sort of guided structure to maybe making more sense out of it.
I think that's great. I will say, just because I like to say a little something about what everybody brings up and what they bring to it. That reading an entire chapter is too much. You're
Yeah,
not,
what?
yeah, getting to the point, especially if you're like, as you said, your eyes are passing over it and your mouth is not trying to handle it, right? It's way too much. You can't see
Yeah.
you're looking for the forest while you're in the middle of the trees. You have no other opportunity here. So yeah, I think the way we're going to do it by parsing stuff out is going to be more rewarding for everybody over the long haul, but it will be a long haul. Paul says hello to everyone. I was just on a 5-hour Zoom with him, but he's in London right now, so he won't be joining us tonight. But he's promised to join us a bunch over the course of time. So, Carly and David, you're next on my screen, and I'm so glad to see that Carly has actually put her name up, because most times she's a background spectator and doesn't really offer. And it's David Duke that happens. So.
Yeah, I've been sort of a tagged along with Ulysses. I got about halfway through, and then I sort of experienced what Terry was describing with your eyes passing over it, and just sort of drifted away from that. I was with you with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and that felt a little more comfortable. Um, I was sort of in and out with the latest Ulysses. It's starting to make a little more sense. Um, but Finnegan's Wake, I thought, all right, we're all going to start at ground zero. I don't have a literary background, so oftentimes I'm daunted by the vast knowledge amongst all of you and the references that you're able to make. And it's like, oh my God, I need to read a whole lot more before I can even read this. But I feel like with Finnegan's Wake, it's like it's written in some alien language that it's sort of meant for a group head to come together. And um, I really enjoyed reading it aloud with my husband David here, who um, I have to say, David and I enjoyed puzzles very much. We like doing them together, and this felt like a puzzle. It really did. It was like we alternated paragraphs reading aloud, and like then you'd sort of take over for the other person and say it a little bit differently because you felt something, and it was really fun to just like come up with this awareness of this, our perception of what this was about. So I'm dying to know what everyone else came up with, and I think this will be really fun.
There's a thing that happens in the reading, when you're reading aloud,
Yeah.
really doing a drill down like you're talking about. And then you get to the end of the sentence, and you've been so focused on how you're supposed to make sense of these words to pronounce them, that you go, oh shit, it ends in an exclamation point. This was supposed to be a lot more emphatic than what I just tried to do. I totally read it wrong. And you're like, oh my God. And it just makes you think and think and think and read.
Yeah. And do it over again, like 3 times.
What
And
you
then
said that David is like going,
and then you go, oh, now I get it.
recognize
Yeah.
the alliteration here more and all that sort of stuff. That's
Yeah.
great. That's part of what we've tried.
Fun. That was really fun.
David, how about you?
Well, I'm delighted to see all these folks in your class, Rob. I know most of you now, which is really delightful. I've lost count, 7, 8, 9 classes with Rob. He's helped to open my eyes to Joyce and Ulysses.
David has even, offered to read some of my Tolkien fan fiction, for which Wow, that's a fan.
I I'm still practicing law. I have a degree in economics, but I minored in literature in college, and I love the Rosenbach. I love what it does. And between Rob and the Rosenbach, I've been captured by James Joyce and his book. I've never read Finnegan's Wake. Uh, I think I'm going to be lucky enough to be able to sit and read it aloud to Carla and back again. Quite honestly, I love music. I love the blues, and I'm looking forward to the music of this book.
Excellent. It's not a blues music.
I understand.
We will make, when we're doing it, we will make probably more allusions to jazz than we will blues, which has such a kind of a mainline structure with expression overwritten, of that structure. Whereas this has, discordancy, augments, rhythmics, and all that sort of stuff happening that would be more, appropriate to like thinking about jazz than blues. But musicality is a total thing here, David. You're spot on. And it's like we need to think about that when we're thinking about how we're reading. Rini, hi. I missed
Hello.
you on
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Blues Day. I always do on Blues Day.
And I still didn't hear what you said, but I'm just gonna smile and move on.
On Blues Day, and I always miss you on Blues Day.
Oh, thank you so much. I cheer all of you on, and one day, Dea Valente, maybe I'll be able to do it. But in the meantime, I'm so glad that all of you got to meet each other, and I get a peek at photos. So I'm really good living, living vicariously. I can do a good job with that. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Rita Gibney. I live in Mount Airy in Philadelphia. I want to start by saying, and this opening set of moments here consolidates that sense that to me, as much as the text that or the texts that we work with, it's a sense of community. I have just fallen in love with the whole process of all of the classes that I've been taking. Rob's most frequently. Actually, I didn't meet. I bought it. I didn't buy it.
Oh,
I didn't make it. I bought it, but I shop well. And you're all welcome to come to me. I can't go to people, but you're all welcome to come to me. I have a fully accessible place.
Field trip. Field trip.
Yes, that's right. Oh, come. So the sense of community, I think, is as much a driver for me as continuing through all of these wonderful new texts and familiar texts in some ways. At this point, I've read most of Joyce, Exiles, Portrait, Stephen Hero, Dubliners, Ulysses twice now, thanks to Rob's guidance. Exiles, I don't recommend to anybody personally. I think it was rather a waste of his time and our time reading it. A little bit of Elman, thanks to Tony's inspiration. A little bit of letters, still a lot to do. So I am still in approaching Joyce. I love what everybody has said about the sense of openness and being open to a sense of wonder, and also perplexity. Like Sheila, I think you get to a certain stage in your life, and if you're fortunate enough, you're comfortable with ambiguity, you recognize you can't line everything up in a way that makes sense. The road goes ever on. So I think that well, yes, I'm even more in love with Tolkien than I am with Joyce, so I have you to thank on both counts. But so I really look forward to this with the spirit that a lot of people identify already. And the third thing I'll say is a number of our colleagues here in class have retired. By the end of September, I'll be mostly retired. I'll still have some things I'm doing, but I'm mostly retired. So I would love to co-moderate with anybody, let's say starting in November. And B, I may look to some of you for guidance about how to handle not earning your daily bread anymore after doing that since the age of 11. I'm like, Ooh, these identity questions are kind of rising to the surface, bubbling up, or nano bubbling like Trump's reflecting pool. So yeah, right.
But with less algae.
Yeah, right. You're green for different reasons. And so I also want to thank Terry for the reference for Back to School, which I've never seen. And since we mentioned movies already, and Jay has endorsed a movie night. I watched last night. I'm always late to the fair. Always. I'm always behind. I just watched West Wing this year, and it's 25 years old. So just last night, I watched a year-old movie called The Coral, set in England during World War I, and I heartily recommend it. It is heartbreaking, and the music is exquisite. It's so moving. It's so elegantly done. Uh, it's a different kind of art.
Great finds, right?
Oh my God. Well, they're all, I mean, even the smallest parts, you see these people and you say, oh, I know you, Carolyn Pickle. Oh, I know you. But it just, it's heartbreaking. So a nod to David's interest in music. So I want to thank everybody for what you're saying about your own experience so far. And I look forward to hearing more of all of that. So thank you.
Great. Jay, how about you?
Howdy. My name is Jay. I'm in Queens, New York. This spring into summer was my second time taking Rob's course on Ulysses. My former partner and I tumbled into Bloomsday a couple summers ago, and I love long form performance art. And so I signed up for the course basically for the reason to get a chance to read at Bloomsday the following summer, which is like a real long con. That turned out great because look at all my friends who are here now. I met basically everyone that I'm the closest to through an online book club in COVID times. So reading and engaging and interfacing, this is now like a huge part of my life and in a variety of circumstances. Reading Ulysses and a bunch of other sort of large, serious works of literature through the Rosenbach and otherwise last year kind of helped me learn how to read again is how I describe it, really. I've always been a reader since I was a little kid, but, you know, got to college, didn't read very much fiction, didn't read a lot for fun. Moved to New York. I was reading a lot, but not like processing information at all. So to read slow and to talk about what I'm reading sort of rewired my brain, which is great. So I'm just riding that wave as long as humanly possible. I'm a Stephen Dedalus fan, and that's really the most important thing about me.
You are an unapologetic.
I'm an unapologetic Stephen Dedalus fan. In a former life, I was a music teacher. I now work for a music education software company. So it's nice to do non-technology based, get a paperback or a hardcover in my hands and do some marginalia and think about stuff. So if anyone is in New York, please let me know. Would love to see and meet and wine and dine.
Yeah, I'm sorry we missed you last time I was up there.
I know, me too. It was just exactly the wrong moment.
Cecilia, hi.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Thompson. I live in Tennessee. Moved there from Florida, where I moved from New Jersey. I'm a new widow, unfortunately, 4 months ago today. So I am.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so learning kind of how to reprogram my life, if you will, and how to think things. I was a nurse for 30 years and I retired a few years back. And although I had read, it was mostly history. I loved history. Not so much fiction, because to me, well, why would I read fiction? That never happened. That never really happened. No, oh, I always kind of thought more in black and white terms, However, I have a lovely sister who a few years back convinced me to read Pride and Prejudice. And well, I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the story and her writing. And from there, I went to Dickens and, so several other authors that I can't think of right now. And then I figured, even though I know next to nothing, I don't have, it's not that I know next to nothing, but I don't have the literary background that so many of you have, which I am learning so much from. And I figured, why not? Let's learn something different. Let's try. I used to make a joke after I retired. I said, I don't want to learn one more thing. I don't want to learn anything else. I don't want to know anything else. I just want to, but that's not the case. And James Joyce it's like opening up a door into something completely different. So I am looking forward to this, and I'm so looking forward to, I've met through the class so many of you that I see on my screen now, and learned so much from you and your perspective on things. So I am really looking forward to this, and it's very therapeutic for me. So thank you.
Very glad, so glad to have you. So glad
Thank
to.
you. Thank you.
I'm gonna. So this is gonna be a monthly group. It's gonna be great. Like, I think monthly is enough. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a lot. We're gonna talk to each other a lot, right? I think over Google Classroom, which will be a new challenge for a lot of us. But we've also done, some of us have done weekly groups for a long time. I like a weekly group too. For those of you who are interested in this, although it's a little bit of a departure from what we're talking about now, we will be beginning with a lot of the same people you see on the screen now, the Silmarillion on Thursday. And look at Rainy's excitement. It's probably not a course for people who haven't recently read or don't have a great love for The Lord of the Rings, because in some ways it's a little bit of a disappointment. But it will be a weekly group that a lot of us that will be in to fill our sort of weekly need to talk to one another about literature on a Thursday night now that Ulysses class has ended. So anybody interested in that can feel free to just email me and I'll drop you in. It's a pretty simple read. It'll probably go about 10 to 13 weeks at about 50 pages a week. But there's a lot of great topics to be addressed there about creative cycle and the art of world building and numerous other things about Tolkien's linguistic abilities. So I'm not, and it's a free and open group. People can join as they want. But Cecilia, a lot of what you just said just resonated with the core of why we group. And so I wanted to make sure we hit that. Rick, how about you? I think you've probably got more Finnegan's Wake experience than a lot of people that have spoken so far.
Yeah, but all off the cuff, all just my own perusing of the book over the years. I've never taken a class in it. I have taken your Ulysses class now 2 years in a row. I took Vicky Mahaffey's class in Stephen Hero and the portrait. I was an English major a long time ago, Fordham University, and I think I first encountered Joyce at that time. So now I'm retired after a 40-year career as an HR executive in New York City, and so now I'm kind of getting back to what I loved a long time ago. Yeah, I particularly love, I know we can't skip to it, but if we could skip to the last 10 pages of Finnegan's Wake, I think those pages are about the most beautiful poetry in the English language. I read them over and over again. Don't pretend to understand them, but the language is just otherworldly. Um, and I like to think of Joyce's own voice when I read any part of Finnegan's Wake. That recording, there's a recording of about 10, 12 minutes of Joyce reading Anna Livia Plurabelle, and the music of his voice adds so much to the work itself, to the beauty of the language. So I like to pretend I'm hearing him read or speak when I pick up and read any part of Finnegan's Wake. Um, so yeah, I have a little bit more experience, but only on my own, picking the book up and opening it at random, and again hearing Joyce's voice. But I'm looking forward to having this opportunity to kind of really read it and discuss it with a group of like-minded people. It's good to be here.
Great. Harriet Shaw Weaver, Joyce's like big financial benefactor. Well, there were many people that supported him, many women that supported him in his career on many levels. But Harriet Shaw Weaver once said to him, "No one can understand your new book." To which he responded, "Well, they should simply try to read it with an Irish accent. And if that doesn't work, they should switch their drink." So, yeah. Catherine, good to see you here.
Okay. Okay, hi. You know what you said just when I started trying to read Finnegan's Wake, having just taken the Beowulf Tolkien class, The Hobbit, I started feeling like I was reading Middle English. It was a very weird experience. But in any event, for those who don't know me, I live in your nation's capital, where we like to say the government's as good as the people you send us. And the reflecting pool is a metaphor for our current government.
Agreed.
I started with this group, I guess, with Ulysses a couple of years ago, but I became a James Joyce fan when I was in high school. And I read a lot of literature, I think, in junior high school and high school, went up to college, and I ended up as a history major, did a lot of science courses, thinking I might go to medical school, did a lot of philosophy of religion, but I did like one course on the great books. And really, I guess a little bit, was it Cecilia or somebody said they didn't think, fiction wasn't kind of, there's something about fiction was a little frivolous or something, for a long time. I ended up having a career as a lawyer and worked at the State Department for many years, retired in 2019 after surviving 2 years of the first Trump administration. And then I finally again had time to read. So for me, I've read Ulysses. I've taken a number of courses over the years, never managed to do Finnegan's Wake. The course I did with Robert, I was also at the same time doing the one out of the Joyce Society in Dublin. And I ended up going to Dublin for Bloomsday that year. It really brought home to me how much I had been missing in my appreciation of literature. And partly because of people in this group, and some who were in the previous group are not in this group, but in any event, people who have really spent a lifetime reading literature and understanding or thinking about it in ways that I had not been able to appreciate before. So the whole experience has been very interesting for me to sort of suddenly find myself with the time and opportunity to come to literature from a totally new perspective. It's been great. But I really want to, in terms of this course, Rob, I think in the organizational meeting, there was some talk about, should we just read excerpts here and there, or should we really read the book start to finish? Or I really hope by the end of this we will have read the book, because I've spent decades saying I've read everything by Joyce except Finnegan's Wake. And I don't want to end up after this saying I still haven't read Finnegan's Wake. I've just dabbled in it.
Yes, we're going to do that, Catherine. And again, I'm so glad to see you in this group. But we're definitely going to do that. Part of what we were talking about in that organizational meeting, I don't know, people watch the video for it, was there's ways to do this, but if you are going to parse out the language, it's going to take longer. And it often takes, my experience of my friends who run wake groups or in wake groups is it could take a decade as we sort of go, this means this means that. What does this mean? What does this tell us? What do we think about? And that's great. I want those conversations. And I would agree with you. As I said in the organizational meeting, anything else seems less, right? Anything else seems like not the best exercise of our community. So we're going to read it. We're going to read it together. You can zoom ahead all you want. You can come back to whatever we're doing each month. I don't think we're going to do more than one meeting a month. People might say, hey, can we have, bi-weekly or something? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But it's a lot to chew. And I really do believe that Google Classroom, which I have used to some great effect for the engaged audience that's here, that has moved on through other stuff. Google Classroom will give us the asynchronous engagement we want as we're reading together. So I encourage more and more people to utilize that. Tom, you're next. I'm hoping we're going to get a chance to read. It's 7 o'clock, but these are the things. Like I said, it's got to be about getting to know one another first.
Hi, everybody. Okay. Read a portrait in senior AP English. Was drawn to the Irish Studies Department at Queens College right away. Studied with two Joyceans, Kevin Sullivan, wrote a book about Joyce and the Jesuits, and Ed Epstein, who wrote a book about Finnegan's Wake. I did not take him for Joyce. I took him for linguistics, which may or may not. It was an 8 a.m. class, and I was often half asleep. So, but I'm going to try and pull some of that in. Later, I did not study literature. I was a writing concentration, and then I went for an MFA at Sarah Lawrence. I've managed bookstores, run reading series, loved reading series at Postman Books near Washington Square Park for 4 years. So I got a lot of the NYU and New School crowd. And but I had gotten away from actual reading, and COVID came. I started taking classes with someone at LIU Post on Long Island, and I'm in Queens, and I got to be friends with some of those people. So when I found Rob was giving a class on Ulysses, I said, I went to one of the first Bloomsday on Broadways in the early 80s, and then I would go every so often. I would try to listen on the radio if they were doing that, like a marathon reading. But it was scattershot. So I bought this copy in 1983. It was still kind of new. It was a centennial edition. It has not been cracked open until today.
We're all like, yeah, we're both like, we got that.
Yeah. So this is everything in my life has pointed me to this moment. I am semi-retired, and for the past year, I've been giving house tours at a historic farmhouse in Queens, actually. Uh, the Adrian's farmhouse, a Dutch farmhouse, and I have found passion for uh, giving tours and talking about research. And I've given one lecture there, and I've been asked to give two more lectures. Uh, and it's kind of a new chapter of my life in a way, and I'm getting out of my comfort zone. And I think a lot of it has to do with you people, in being able to talk with people,
That's
really smart people.
that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. And yes, there's no question. How do I say this? It seems like we dance around the question of expertise when we think about how we come to this book. It seems like a number of you have said, well, I don't have a background in literature as some of you do, or you have this that you bring to it, or these things that I hadn't seen. And we're all going to do that. We're all going to come from completely different perspectives. Expertise is not like one-sided or hierarchical, right? With a reflecting pool, well, if you would have told me that you were going to paint an American flag blue, even I, who's not a Scientologist, or I'm sorry, a scientist, that's a big Freudian slip there. Somebody should like trip on. But who's not a scientist would say, well, of course, if you don't fix the drainage, algae will grow faster because you put a darker color down. I could have told you that. Anybody could have told you that, right? But we are in a world of the death of expertise a little bit. And so this, as Catherine was pointing out, becomes an idiom of where we are. You get the people, we work with the people you send us, right? I don't want any of you to, through this course, feel like no, it's not a course, sorry, it's a reading group. I don't want any of you to feel like you can't speak to what you're feeling about what you're seeing. Because that would be counterproductive to our pursuit, our communal pursuit of the wonderment of it. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to pontificate, but yeah, I'm still moderator. Christine, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I am joining from the southern part of the Texas Panhandle. It was only 95 degrees today, so I was thankful for that. I would say my first exposure to James Joyce would have been during undergrad. I was not an English major, but it was part of my interdisciplinary studies that I did for undergrad, and it was reading Dubliners, and I really fell in love with some of those stories. But it wasn't until much later that I tried to read Ulysses and tried it on my own, did not get very far. Meanwhile, the man that I ended up marrying, my husband, was trying on his own as well. And then we read it together when we first started dating. And that became a big thing for us, and we really loved it. And I had read it a few more times before joining Rob's class a few years ago through the Penn Art Studio. And then I did the Lord of the Rings class with Rob as well. And so I really loved that experience and am very much looking forward to diving into Finnegan's Wake. I did read the first 7 paragraphs, and one thing I'm learning about myself is I'm not much of an out loud reader, but I'm going to challenge myself to make sure that I do that. And so kind of what I did this time was I read it like I normally read. Then I listened to the recording of it. And then I went back and read again. So that's kind of how I approached
Can I
this
ask
first
you what recording
reading.
you listened to?
I'm sorry?
What recording did you listen to?
It was, so I tried to, someone had posted one, and for some reason I couldn't get that file to open. So I don't remember what it was, honestly. So yeah, I may try to go back to open that one that someone posted. But I'm gonna start doing the aloud reading. And I'm also tempted. I do have the book of annotations. I'm tempted to dive into that stuff, and I'm trying not to, at least at this point. But I am very excited to join this group. I can't say enough how much I really loved diving into Lord of the Rings with many of you on this call. Looking for, again, that sense of community as well as diving into this book. And I am in the Silmarillion group as well. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm raring to go on Silmarillion. I love and hate it both. So part of what Christine was talking about is there's some online tools that you can listen to. One was put together where it's like an audio file of people just reading from Finnegan's Wake that I think is still up, although the guy behind it, Derek Pyle, is kind of grown cold on Joyceana for other reasons. But it's useful, and many, like, he would go around and just get people to cold read. He'd go around to the Joyce conferences and get people to read. He'd bring costumes with him to the Joyce conferences, and you could put on whatever you wanted and read, and that was interesting too. And so those audio files are really kind of cool. It's terrible that I can't remember what they're titled, but and yet at the same time I did the cover for the first one of them. But and I've been on some of them. They're really good. Oh wait, is somebody putting them in the chat, please, for me? What, I just see something in the chat there. Put that up.
Barry put up an Audible link.
Yeah, it's on Audible. You can, if you're an Audible member, you can get it for credit. Don't know how much the non-member price is, but I think it's 20 something hours.
Good.
29 hours.
I didn't know he shifted it to Audible, which is like good. If he just shifted it to Audible, I probably would have asked for money for the cover I did. But whatever, because there's a pay scheme there. Whatever. But yes, there's good stuff there, and it's wild open reading. People just are reading because they're new to it, or they're not new to it, or they just love it. And that's a pretty good opportunity. So that's another source to track down. I don't really want you to listen to it. I want you to read it. I think you decipher when you read, and I think you experience when you listen. It's a difference between the active and the voyeuristic space, right? So there's that. Kirk, your hand is up. We've got a few more people to ask about, but I want to make sure I'm answering the questions when they come up, because they're probably.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that Finnegan's Wake is special because there are typographical tricks that he does later in the book. So it's sort of important to read it and not just to listen to it.
Not just typographical. I mean, all the spelling, all of the every word from like within the first paragraph is a dream word, for lack of a better. I don't really like the dream to drive the dream equation too far. Modernist poetry has other allusions that they make that are not as limited to dream as this is, but people talk about it as like a sort of a dream language, and that's not far wrong. But yeah, it happens even within the first paragraph, of course. Tony.
Well, yeah, I wanted to read along and do it, but I bought maybe it's not. I bought the McHugh book, and I found it unusable. I'm going to give it more of a chance, but a link that I put into the Google Classroom has a much more usable flyover parsing help aid, that with reading it out loud is kind of how I approach the first 7 paragraphs. But I did want to say that I think I wasted my money on McHugh. Maybe it's just not as good as the new technology that's presented with that website. But so
There's that. McHugh's good. It's I think you hit the nail on the head. It's written for a different age, and it's more like, oh, I can just explain this to you, and I don't suggest that that's the way to approach the way is through explanation. Claire, you're next on my screen. Where you know.
I live in San Diego, but I'm currently traveling in London, so I'm in my hotel room, and I'm sorry if I look tired because now is 12:17 a.m. in London.
Yeah, you're coming to us late. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad that I joined this reading group. I taught intellectual history. I retired last year. I taught intellectual history at a university, but I love literature. So I read whenever I have time. And I'm glad that I joined this reading group because I had not read any James Joyce's works before, and especially Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake, considered most difficult modern novels. And I hope that after this we can read the portrait of a young artist, right? I hope we can continue with that. But
well, I believe there will be other people doing Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and that happens all the time at Rosenbach. I'm not planning to do that book in our own group future. I'm not saying it's not possible, but tell me, what happened at the end of our Ulysses class for you? How did you feel? Did you like?
I do find this novel difficult to understand, but I mean, I myself like modernism. I like Virginia Woolf, but I find his stream of consciousness more difficult to follow if compared to, especially compared to other modernist writers compared to Virginia Woolf. So I think the way it's not just the style, but also the language itself.
Yes, great.
But I enjoy reading his Ulysses.
Good. And will you read it again, do you think, having read it with
yes,
her?
Of course. Well, yes. I think if there's another chance, like another reading group continuing, reading the same novel, I believe I will join again.
Good. Excellent. we've said in Ulysses class that Ulysses is a novel that rewards repeat readers. I don't think you should carry that same relationship into this book. The book will be more experiential for you, and you will probably always want to go back and go, well, huh? You know, but it won't be the same sort of thing where you're. Many people have talked about puzzles, and there are puzzles that you can continually find in Ulysses. And then on a second and a third read, you feel like you can answer them and you can get them more. In Finnegan's Wake, that won't necessarily happen. You're going to solve these things kind of for yourself, and you're going to kind of want to re-engage with them to be able to re-engage with your questioning rather than with your answers. And I want us to know that as we're going in. It's not the same experience whatsoever. But I'm glad to hear that, like, you know, that your enjoyment of the Ulysses class is such that you would be with there again. And you also would take it into this. And it is not. We're going to leave each class. I don't know how much we'll get to read tonight, but we're going to leave each class going, huh? We're not going to know. So, all right. We also have a few more introductions to get through. Margaret, you next.
Hi, sorry. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm originally from New York. And I read Ulysses. I had read a bunch of other Joyce. I had read Dubliners and Portrait of the Artist. And then I read Ulysses on my own a couple times. But the real turning point was the Ulysses class that we took with the Rosenbach and with Rob. That really cemented my interest in Joyce. And I had acquired, I'd always said that someday when I retire, which I finally did, I would read Finnegan's Wake. And I've acquired about 7 or 8 books about Finnegan's Wake. And so when this class came up, I decided to start looking through those. And while I find them useful, in some ways to give me a broader look at the structure and stuff, I don't find them of a great deal of use in the close reading of Finnegan's Wake. So when I did the 7 paragraphs, it really was like reading from start, reading from the beginning. It wasn't so much informed by the fact that I'd read part of this book or that book. So that for me is, you know, that sort of goes against the way I am, where I read about everything as much as I can. So this class will be a really different, exciting experience for me.
That's great. Thanks, Margaret. I mean, the thing I want you to take away from the way I look at it, but not all of you will look at it the same way, is that our time here will be experiential, right? You can delve into these other things, and I'm sure that some of the people that I've asked to co-teachers on the site will post things that they're reading and seeing along the way. But experiential quality of our reading together.
I'm having a hard time hearing. I hear somebody else talking.
Somebody else has got something on somewhere.
Maybe if everyone can mute.
Yeah.
Who's not talking?
So the last 2 people who haven't introduced themselves are Heather and Quinn. Heather, let's go with you first.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I'm Heather. I live in the mythical land of central New Jersey, very close to Catherine, between Princeton and Trenton. And I have taken Rob's, huh?
Not a myth. I had been there.
Yes. Um, and I've taken Rob's Ulysses class twice, and I love it, and I love Ulysses, and I would like to figure out how to squeeze another reading around repeatedly reading Ulysses. So I'm working on that. And I did buy this same copy that that a lot of us have, and I did open it and ask, why am I here? Um, but I look at everybody in this room and I know why I'm here. So I'm excited and along for the ride. And yeah.
Love that. Love that. You're gonna have a ball. It's troubling. You pick it up and you go, what? And it's the thing, and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna have some time to talk about that. Quinn, my dear, how about you?
Hi, everybody. Sorry it's a bit late. It's really nice to see everybody again after I hopped in briefly at Penelope and got to meet some of you all at Bloomsday. I first read Ulysses in fall 2021, I
Yeah,
think.
we decided the other day it was
Yeah.
a COVID class, right?
Yeah, my partner convinced me to take a course with Paul and Rob. I was really worried, at first that, oh, Ulysses is huge. Like, am I gonna have time with all my other coursework to um take it on? And then by the first class, I was like, oh, this is gonna be really, really, really wonderful. And it was. So since then I've been um helping Rob out and some other folks here and there with Ulysses groups. Um and I'm starting my English PhD in the fall. So right now I'm just gonna see. I've read a little bit of The Wake, but I'd love to get through more of it because I think that Joyce's writing is really, really beautiful. And I love that kind of like freedom of not having to get everything that goes on, just to like pick out pieces of it and to know that there's like a really, really big world within the text that I can keep coming back to and explore. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to talk with everybody and to see and read as much of this book as I can before like classes start and I get swamped with all my other reading, but I'm gonna really do my best and try to stay connected as much as I can.
Well, we'll be monthly, so you'll be able
Yeah,
to.
should be manageable.
And let's face facts, we're not going to get through so many pages in a month together that you won't be prepared. And I know you like to be prepared. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm really glad you joined us.
Yeah.
I have you.
Oh, also, I didn't say where I am. I'm in Manhattan right now. Um, so we should do a little New York adventure. That would be fun.
Yeah. Quinn is one of those, you have those students, right, that you're so particularly proud of. Um, and Quinn is one of those for Paul and I, and at UPenn, and so I'm so glad to have your involvement here. And yeah, we're gonna have fun. All right, here's the thing: we should have a hard out at 8, because the fact of the matter is, we can always go longer. We can always be like, wait, shit, what did that mean? And we're gonna do that a lot. It's gonna happen, right? Because it's a hard book and we're going to puzzle through every moment of it. But we have decided we're going to parse it. We've decided we're going to read it and then we're going to ask questions about it. We're not going to get a chance to do a lot of that tonight. And that's fine. So, what I guess I want to know is I think we can do 2 paragraphs, I think. And who feels strongly about reading those? You're all going to read. All going to frickin' read if we have anything to do with this. You have no choice, right? Sheila feels strong. Anybody else want to raise their hand? Kirk raises his hand. All right, Sheila, do the first paragraph through environs. And then Kirk, my friend, while she's reading, you might want to figure out what you're going to do with that thunder word that appears in the second. God bless you, man. And that's fine. And everybody has trouble. So, Sheila, give it to us.
All right, mine is too easy, but I'm going to do it. River run past Even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by commodious ficus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs.
We're going to take a minute, mostly so Kirk can still sort out the thunder word. But we're also going to want to recognize the alliteration in that. We're also going to want to recognize River Run, comma. No capital of River Run is our indication that we won't reach until we're done with the book, that this is a flip of, like, this is the ending of a last sentence from the end of the book coming over, the auroribus that we've talked about regarding this book. But there's really great alliteration here too that shouldn't be ignored. Swerve, door, and bend of bed, commodious viscous, right? A health castle and environs. I'm sorry, Sheila, were you saying something?
You said something really interesting, that it's a flip. Do you mean that this ends the book as well as starting it? Do you mean that these words end the book too?
So I will do that just to give a little more time for Kirk to really be prepared. If you go to the end of the book, if you go within the last few lines, there's so much here, and I don't want to forestall it, so I won't do as much as I did in our meeting earlier. You go to about line 9 or 10 of the page here. Two more, 1, 2, more men's, more. So, abalaba, my leaves have drifted from me, all but one clings still. I'll bear it on me to remind me of Lif. So soft this morning, ours. Yes, carry me along, Teddy, like you're done through the toy fair. If I seen him bearing down on me now, under widespread wings like he'd come from archangels, I'd sink, I'd die down over his feet, humbly, dumbly, only to wash up. Yes, Tid. There's where, first, we passed through the grass, but hush the bush, to wish, gulls, far calling, coming, far, and hear us, then, Finn, again, take bus of thee, memory, till thousands thee, lisp, key to, given, away, alone, a last, a loved, long the river run, past even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us back by commodious viscous of recirculation, back to Howth Castle and environs.
Wow.
The book is a circle.
I had no idea.
Right? The book is a circle. It is intended for us to leave without the paragraph on that last page that I just did, and to begin without the capitalization. The punctuation is a misnomer. It should not have been indented. And there's been people who have commented on that, but it should not have been misindented. Should be river run starting at the top of the column, but whatever. There are things you could do with typefacing now that you couldn't have done that. So, Kirk, do you want to give us our second paragraph? Are you ready? It's a hard one.
This is paragraph 2. Sir Tristram, Violer de Moris, for over the short sea, had Passencourt re-arrived from North Armorica on this side of the scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor to wielder fight his peninsulate war, nor had Top Sawyer's rocks by the stream Oconee exaggerated themselves to Lawrence County's Georgios, while they went doubling their mumper all the time, nor a voice from a fire bellows mish-mish to Tauf thou'rt Petrick. Not yet, though Venice soon after had a kid's cad butt-ended a bland old Isaac. Not yet, though all's fair in Venice, where Sozy Cethers wroth with Twone Nathanjo. Wrote a peck of Paz malt, had Gem and Shen, brewed by Arclight, and Rory into the Regenbro, was to be seen ringsome on the Aquaface.
Oh, I at a glance thought you had the thunder word. You didn't get the thunder word in that. Bravo. That's good. You got lucky. You got very lucky, my friend. All right. Here's a bunch of stuff here. What are we going to do with a bunch of stuff here?
The history of Ireland. When I read this the first time, I said, oh, he must be talking about the history of Ireland, because I knew about Tristan and Isolde, the Wagner opera. I'm a Wagner fan. So I said, oh, he's talking about that. But then he throws in North America and Europe Minor and a lot of other stuff I didn't understand. Venison. There's so much wordplay here. Georgios, Lawrence County. Don't know any of this stuff. And you know, it didn't bother me much, but I would, I do plan on looking at McHugh after this. I didn't want to look at it before, but I did want to look at McHugh after this, and also fwheat.org, which I need to put a post link to. Fwheat is the Finnegan's Wake online, maybe examination, sort of a online dictionary. Fwheat is password protected, so I need to post the user ID and password, which Raphael, the guy that made the website, doesn't really object to, but that may also help. It's a little bit more straightforward, I think, than McHugh.
I believe so. McHugh's useful. We've had some stuff about that. I don't. You're going to go about this way. You're going to go about it. I don't want you to seek the established answers too quickly, right? And some of them are very old, and some of them are less established now as people read it, and as the art changes in a generation. And
oh, Margaret, your hand was up, wasn't it? Or did you take it down? No. Okay. Thanks. I was going to say, Kirk, you just said venison. When I first was reading it to my, out loud, whatever, I thought venison. But when I heard you just read it now, it said like very soon. It sounded like very soon, like with a German accent, sort of. And so it's interesting that hearing it even in someone else's voice too, which someone said you have a beautiful reading voice, which you do. So, I heard it completely different than how I read it, which I think Bob said that at the beginning that that's going to happen.
Yes, to me, when I first read it years ago, because when I was in 30s, after I'd read Ulysses and liked it without really knowing much about it, I found out his other books, and his other books are different, but Finnegan's Wake is really different. I read this through in my 30s, and the very first time I remember seeing that Venison, and I said, That could be venison or it could be very soon. And what does venison have to do with very soon? Venison is deer meat. I grew up in northern Ohio where we ate a lot of venison. And then there's very soon, which sounds like very soon. And so the importance, as Rob said, of reading aloud cannot be underestimated.
So I would like somebody to quickly do a little search on Viola de Amores, which
Well, in French, violer is to rape or violate.
well, let's do a little look up and see what we come up with. I think you'll be interested in the results. But because I'm not sure it's clear-cut French, if I remember correctly.
The first time I read it, I just immediately thought of the viola d'amore, an old style viola, musical instrument.
Very interesting. I was gonna, yeah, I was hoping somebody'd say that. Anybody else to look it up and see what we think that is? We do not have in Finnegan's Wake the luxury that we had in Ulysses of foreign language being in italics. But we also will find foreign languages doubtful because they will not necessarily be the foreign language cognate or direct results. And they might be Joyce just playing with an idiomatic expression from another language. So who's Catherine? Your hand is up. You looked it up?
Yep. Apparently, it's a slight misspelling, undoubtedly intentional, of the viola de amore, a rare 18th century Baroque stringed instrument. And literally, translated from Italian, it means viol of love. So he's kind of doing a play on this Baroque instrument.
So who knows the story of Tristan and Isolde? Tristan drinks a love vial. He's bringing back Isolde for his king, his uncle, King Mark of Cornwall. He's bringing back Isolde from Ireland, the Chapelzote area that I talked about. And together on the ship, various versions, they drink a love vial together. And they fall tragically, deeply, impossibly in love. It is the great medieval story of love. And so Tristan and Isolde are meant here to occupy that. And that thing that seems like, oh, you might go, oh, it's a musical instrument. No, he's actually going, yeah, but the original name of that musical instrument means viol of love. And I'm going to link it back to Tristan for us. Brainy, your hand went up and you took it down, and I will not deny you your comment.
I just wanted to say, as you mentioned, there are different versions of the story, and in one, she tricks him into drinking the vial, which was meant to be delivered to King Mark. In another, they mutually agree to kind of subvert Mark's interest and try to flee. And in the versions seem to, from my understanding,
she's given they drink the vial by mistake.
And another, yeah, but one she actually it does it on purpose because she doesn't want to be affianced to this old king. She loves the look and the charm and the amazing
Tristan is so awesome.
Charisma, of Tristan. And in different versions, sometimes they both die. Sometimes Mark kills both of them. Sometimes Mark kills Tristan, and then Isolde dies of heartbreak. But there's another version in which they just are separated, but they live perpetually in the torment of love, but separated from each other for the rest of their lives. So in every way, it's a tragedy. I mean, there's no happy ending to a lot of Celtic and medieval legends, but this one in particular is like, oh man, nobody gets a break here.
Absolutely. So, what I would say to you in the second paragraph of Finnegan's Way, because somebody asked this, I don't forget who. Oh, it was Catherine about Chapelzod. And I'm like, oh, no, Chapelzod's a thing because it's Tristan and Isolde. Chapelzod, which was once Chap Isolde, is named for where Isolde comes from, because she's Irish. And this tale, which is ultimately comes down to it's from the French. And so we're given in that first paragraph to operate through these kind of older idioms and examine the myth really deeply. You know, it's right there. It's buried. It's linguistically difficult because there's so much going on. But this is a really great example in the two paragraphs that we just read of Joyce's Finnegan's Wake that there's a density here about Irish myth, but also he recognizes in the use of the word Tristram that the recounting of that myth is Germanic and French, right? And so he uses Tristram rather than Tristan, which the Cornwallish version would have been. And it sets us up for understanding, after we just had the whole through health and all its experiences, a localization of myth. David? Or Carly, whoever just put that.
It was me. McHugh, in his introduction, uses the term layers. Is that a fair approach to the book? It seems that his writing is layered, and you can go as deep as you want, deeper, with each word or each phrase or each line.
Well, that's a lovely paragraph, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did everything I just told you about the legend of Tristan and Isolde make it better? I'm not sure. It's a lovely paragraph. Right. You might just enjoy the language of that paragraph. And this is where McHugh and I might part company, is that I'm not sure that a clinical understanding is important to a poetical enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
McHugh is totally useful, and I will use it a lot. But I'd rather have you enjoy what's going on, and then go, "Oh, didn't see that one. That's a new thing." Much like, the vial of love thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sounds like it's a musical instrument, and given Joyce's interest in musicality, even within this, if you don't explore deeper why he chose that name of a musical instrument, you won't understand the depth within the story of Tristan and Isolde.
Right. Okay.
Kirk.
Well, now I'm going to bring up another resource which I really love, A Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake by Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist. And he has at the beginning of this, it's only 350-page book. At the beginning, he has something called the, what does he call it here? The demonstration, where he talks about just the first 4 paragraphs. And on the second paragraph, if I may, Rob, he has this to say. The basic sense is this: Sir Tristram, musician of love, from across St. George's Channel, had not yet re-arrived from North Brittany, which is on Ireland's side of rugged Europe, to wage again his war. The war is designated peninsulate, which suggests late or recent war of the penis, a designation not inappropriate to the jest of a Tristram, but the word may also be read pen isolate, whereupon it suggests a war waged with a pen, not by a robust extrovert, but by an isolated, introverted man of letters. And it goes on from there.
Yes,
again,
well,
I don't know if we should be reading
up there. And I love Campbell, don't get me wrong. But
I love your phrase, Rob. Don't let a clinical attempt at understanding get in the way of a appreciation of the poetry. This
it's so for that I would say pen isolate is such a wonderful word. Peninsula is often isolated. But
it's almost like every phrase has half a dozen possible different meanings.
Isn't it the same root word, isolate and assault? And so I think there's another metaphor to be seen there, or layer, to give you the Campbell stuff, to be found there. Pen isolate's an interesting word within this paragraph. Because in a peninsula, you're out on an edge. And if you know of the romance of Tristan and Isolde and you're already there for the beginning of this sentence, then you're kind of reading that word as them out on the edge.
And before Tony says, I just want to say thank you for mentioning that on the edge, because of course, this is to me hypnagogic. It's on the edge between awakeness and asleepness. So edge in peninsula is also a factor. There's like 6 or 7 possible ways of looking at everything.
Again, this is why it's going to take us a number of years. And we're probably only at these 2 paragraphs today. Tony, your hand is up, my friend.
Well, yeah, I just thought I'd mention a reference in the first 3-line paragraph that's potentially foundational, although I can't say that I understand it. Vicus, the word vicus, commodius vicus of recirculation. Certainly there's a street in Dalkey, Vico Street, which Stephen walks up to on his way from the tower to the teach, but also it's the name of a philosopher, Italian philosopher who I haven't read, but I did read the Ellman book, and I do note in that area that when Harriet Shaw Weaver Shaw, I always mix it up, didn't appreciate the early drafts of that she was given by Joyce. He gave her his New Science, his book by Vico, and said, read this. So I'll want to learn to appreciate why that was important to him and to plant that kind of marker in the opening sentences. So anyway, McHugh doesn't mention it. I'll just say, in terms of the annotations, it is mentioned in the online one, but only reference to the name of the philosopher, not what the what the book means and why it's important to him.
Great. Giambattista Vico, Italian philosopher that you're speaking of. We talk about in our Ulysses class during Nestor, right? Vico presents a cyclical world of civilizations rising, completing, falling, and rising again. This Vicovian cycle that that Joyce fundamentally believed in. Not about philosophy, but about history. Be quick to say. Means that he felt there was something in this notion of fall, rise, birth, rebirth, and golden age, and fall, and rise. And that's Finnegan's Wake. So you should watch for that, and it's great. But it's important that what you picked up there was vicus, which is a word of kind of saying it's Vicovian, but it also means circumventory. Right? Vicus means it rounds about in circles. And so he's already dropping in that theory within that early paragraph. I have a hard out at 8. I have to tell you, I will tell all of you, we all have a hard out at 8 because guess what? We could do this all fucking night if we weren't careful. And so we won't do that. But Rick has his hand up, and we're going to do Rick's question. And maybe we'll be able to answer that by 8, I hope. Go ahead, Rick.
Rob, the last lines of the end of the book, linking as they do to the first lines of the beginning of the book, I like to imagine there's a little bit of a salute there to Molly and Bloom, and their first encounter in Howth. We say there's nothing unintentional in Joyce. I like to think that there's a little nod to Molly and Leo there.
I like that. The environs of Howth are important, but we'll also examine, the Giant's Causeway. We'll examine so many other things through this book that Ulysses doesn't do about Dublin. Okay, we're at the end of class, so I think I should say something pithy about that. So, okay. Finnegan's Wake will put a stamp upon why the coming together of Bloom and Molly on Howth is transcendental. Right? Finnegan's Wake will teach us the broader world of Joyce's cosmology. To the point where we'll consider things about like Bloom and Molly and go, oh, well, they're important here. But this is a book about the cosmology of Joyce. For those of you joining us in the Silmarillion, same thing. But that's what I would say about that. It's a thing we need to look to and go, what he writes about Howth, what he writes about Dublin in the Wake is bigger, broader, greater than when he wrote in Ulysses. And every time he talks about Ulysses within this book, which he does many times, it's talked about like it's a secondary now. All right. It is 8 o'clock. We have had a good session. I hope everybody had fun. I hope everybody still wants to come back. We haven't set up a calendar date, but I will do that through the Google Doc, and we'll figure out where we're going to be next. All right.
Okay.
Love you all. Have a great night.
Good night, all.
Yeah,
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good luck.